So today we're going to do dividing decimals. Here's what we need to know. Okay, this is a lot to write. Feel free to abbreviate as needed. Okay, remember we talked about vocabulary yesterday. We have 3 different terms in long division. There's our long division. What do we call the number underneath the long division sign? Miles? Dividend. Yes. Yeah. Dividend is the one that goes underneath. So what this is saying is when your dividend, the number under here, is a whole number, or even if your dividend is a decimal, the decimal point always goes right above the decimal point in the dividend. Always. The decimal point in the quotient, and where does the quotient go? What is that and where does it go? Colin? Very good. So the quotient is the answer. It goes up here. The decimal point in the quotient goes right above that decimal point in the dividend, wherever it is. Okay? What do we call the number that's outside, that we're dividing by? What do we call that number that's outside the division sign? Miles?
Divisor.
Okay, very good. The divisor is out here. So we're going to use those words as we talk about this division because there's specific rules that have to do with decimals when we're dividing. All right. Hold on to your pencils, please. For example, if we have something like this, I'm going to do this differently because I think it's important to note. Let's say we have this, 9 divided by 5. Well, it's going to have some, yeah. Okay. Where's the decimal in my dividend? Where's the decimal in my dividend right now? Where's the decimal in a whole number, Drew? Behind the 9. So the decimal is right here. With division, you figure your decimals out first. So when we added and subtracted, we figured the decimals out first, right? We lined them up, we brought the decimal down to the answer, and then we did our work. With multiplication, we did the decimal work last. With division, we do it first again. The decimal point always goes right above the decimal point in the dividend. So that's where our decimal would go. At a whole number, the decimal comes right at the end of the whole number. Okay? All right. Let's make this, okay. Then we're going to divide. So let's do the division here. 5 goes into 9 how many times? Once. So once you have your decimal there, you just ignore it and do your division. As long as it's in the right place, it's going to stay there and be in the right place in your quotient. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract. What do I need to bring down here because I'm not at a 0? What do I need to bring down? Mia?
You need to bring down the 0.
We're going to put a little 0 here. Because 9.0 is the same as 9. Would you agree? So we need to keep dividing here until we're done. And we're not done because this is a 4. It's not a 0. So I subtract, I bring down a 0, and then I do my division. What is 40 divided by 5? David? 8. 8 times 5 is 40. Now I subtract. Am I done? Yes. Yes, once I get down to a 0 here and I don't have anything else to bring down, I'm done. So my answer is 1.8. 9 divided by 5 is 1.8. Okay. Now. The second step is divide, as we did. Okay. No, this is going to cover it up. Okay, let's do another example. Let's do a couple examples. Letter A. 7.6 divided by 4. The first step is always getting this set up correctly, right? Which number goes inside the long division box? Hudson? Perfect. 7.6 divided by 4. Okay. Get it all set up correctly. The second thing we do in division is make sure we put our decimal place in the quotient. So I'm going to make sure that my decimal point goes right up above the decimal point that was in the dividend. Right up above. And then I am done. I don't need to worry about the decimal anymore. It's in the right place. Now I just do my division. 4 goes into 7. How many times? Once. 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract. Bring down. Remember, I'm ignoring the decimal point. I'm all done. So you don't need to bring down the decimal point. You don't need to worry about it one bit because we have it set in our quotient. We're done. 4 goes into 36. How many times, David? 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Subtract. Am I done?
Yes.
Yes. So my answer, 7.6 divided by 4, the quotient is 1.9.
Just one more than the other.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you still get like remainders like this?
We will probably not do remainders anymore now that we know how to do it with decimals. We're going to end up having a decimal answer instead of a remainder. Okay? So keep going until your decimal's done. Anna.
So, anyone who's here in 4th grade remembers that the way we learned long division
Yep.
was where you normally bring the 6 down, we just put a 0 there. Is that the same thing? Because I really...
It is the same thing.
Because, we were on school, put zeros there, lining up,
Got it.
drop them there. Yeah, 'cause
That's fine. That's fine. That works if it works for
I
you.
just want to make sure I'm not...
You're doing it correctly. No, that is...
The only thing is she tried to make it easier for us
Yeah,
by
for us to
making the
see it.
problem longer, but all you need to do is
Yes. Right. So my caution to you would be don't get crazy with the zeros. One at a time, okay? I see sometimes problems with that, but it also works if you do it right. So do your method, you're doing it right. It's just a different way to teach it. Thank you for asking because I'm sure a lot of people had the same question. Good question. Okay. Here we go. Letter B. Let's set this up properly and divide. 4.734 divided by 12. Bless you. 4.734 divided by 12. What goes inside my long division box? What goes inside? Mia.
4.734.
Good. 4.734 divided by 12. Okay. We do our decimal work at the beginning. So we start off by figuring out where this decimal point goes. It goes right above the decimal point in the dividend. So here's our decimal point. And now we just divide normally. Does 12 go into 4? No. So we'll put a 0 here. Does 12 go into 47? Remember, we're ignoring the decimal point. Does 12 go into 47? Yes. How many times? Dylan? 3. 3. Yep. Now we're going to do 12 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. Subtract. 47 minus 36 is 11. Subtract, and then we bring down. Or you put your 0 and subtract. All right, 113. So now we need to say how many times does 12 go into 113? 9 maybe? Or 8? Did someone do it? It's 8? It's 9? Let's do 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Carry the 1. 9 times 1 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. Subtract.
what? How
I did 9 times 12 to get 108.
doesn't that equal 113? Or is that just the closest?
That's what we divided into. We said, how many times does 12 go into 113? 9. And then we did 9 times 12 is 108. And then we subtract that. So 13 minus 8 is what, 5? 5. Subtract, then bring down.
It's 5.
Thank you. 5? No, that'll be 60. That'll be too big. 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 4 is 4. 54 minus 48 is 6. Are we done? No, we didn't get a 0 at the bottom. So what can we bring down? A 0.
Oh, I actually just guessed.
A 0. Bring down a 0. 12 goes into 60 how many times? 5. 5 times 12, if you know your 12s tables, is 60. Now am I done?
Yeah.
Yes. So when we're doing division with decimals, you need to keep going until you get to a 0 down at the bottom. Keep going till you get to a 0 down at the bottom. All you do is just add a 0 and bring it down until you get something that goes in evenly. Then you're done. All right. Next one. Let's do this one on your own. Go ahead and try this one in your notes. 36.4 divided by 2. Set it up. Move the decimal where it needs to go in the quotient and then divide. Dividend inside should be 36.4 divided by 2. Then we put our decimal right above the decimal and the dividend for our quotient. And then we just divide. Regular long division. 2 goes into 3 once.
1.
Subtract. Bring down. 2 goes into 16. 8. Subtract. Be careful, we have a 0, but we're not done because we have another number that we need to bring down. So don't stop there. 2 goes into 4. 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. Now we're done because we're at 0 and we have nothing else to bring down. Hudson. Here is the part that's going to take us one more step when we're dividing decimals. This is when we have a decimal in the divisor, which is the number outside of the long division. We can't divide when we have a decimal in the divisor. We have to move the decimal out of the divisor before we divide. Okay? So we, like I was saying before, we do all of our decimal movement and get it in the right place before we do any division. So when we see a decimal in the divisor, we're going to have to move that decimal out of the divisor.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you filming your YouTube video right now?
Yes.
Can I hear us?
So here's what we're going to do. Move its decimal to the right until it's at the end of the numbers. So if we have something like this, let's say 0.92. If that's our divisor, we can't leave the decimal point like that. We have to make it into a whole number. And where did we say decimal points are in whole numbers? Where's the decimal point? Like, where's the decimal point in this number? It's at the end, right? So to make this 0.92, change it into a whole number, we have to move the decimal point until it gets to the end. Okay, to make it like a whole number. Because whole numbers have decimal points at the end. Okay? Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Move the decimal point to the right until you get it to the end of the number in the divisor. Now, here's the key. You also then have to move the decimal in the dividend, that same number of places. So like in 0.92, if we moved it 2 places to the right in the divisor, we also have to move the decimal 2 places to the right in the dividend. So the decimal moves the same number of places inside and outside of the long division sign. Okay? So move the decimal then in the dividend the same number of places that you moved it to get it out of the divisor. And then, just like we did before, once you do that movement, you put the decimal above in the quotient. So you do all the movement, put the decimal above where it ended up in your dividend, put it in the quotient, and then the last step will be to divide. To divide. Notice that we have a decimal in our divisor. Does everybody see that? 1.2. It's okay to have a decimal inside in the dividend, but it's not okay to have a decimal in the divisor. So I need to move this decimal in 1.2 to the end so that it looks like a whole number. So what I'm going to do is slide this decimal point 1 to the right. Do y'all see that? And if I do that in the dividend or in the divisor, I have to also move it one place to the right in the dividend. Now I've done all my movement. The last thing I need to do is make sure that the decimal point in the quotient is right above where it ended up in the dividend. Okay? So you just do all the movement first, and then we can divide now. So let's do the division. 12 goes into 45. 3. 3 times 12 is 36. Subtract 9. Bring down. Okay, make sure you're lining everything up properly. Okay, the 3 went above the 5 because 12 goes into 45. And then we have our decimal point. 12 goes into 96. 8 times, and this should be even. 2 times 8 is 16. 96. Am I done? Yes, because I have a 0 at the end and nothing else to bring down. So my answer is 3.8. Okay? Oh, I didn't realize I did this all. All right, people. Let's do another one. Okay? Set this one up. Get your decimal moved. Let's see if we can do this a little bit on our own. This is how it starts. Dividend, 18.2, divided by 1.4, our divisor. What's wrong with this? Why can't I just start this right away? Before that even, what should I do? Move the decimal point out of the divisor. I need to move it one place to the right. And if I move it one place to the right in the divisor, I move it one place to the right in the dividend. Now I've done my movement. Yeah. And I need to make sure I put my decimal in my answer right above where it was in the dividend. Okay? And then divide. Okay, 14 goes into 18 one time. 14 times 1 is 14. Subtract and bring down. 14 goes into 42 how many times? 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 42. That's great. Am I done? Yes, so my answer is what? 13, a whole number 13. You can put the decimal point at the end, but you do not have to because it's saying the same thing. All whole numbers have an imaginary decimal at the end. Okay? All right. I'm going to keep going. Okay, do this one. Do this one in your notes. It's already set up for you, all with the sign, with the long division box. Yes?
Tonight in the big ideas, will you put like, for these questions, will you put the decimal at the end, or will you just take the whole number?
Yes, that's a good question. So Eddie was asking, so like for the last one where it said 13 and we had a decimal point at the end, just put the whole number 13. Okay? Don't put the decimal point at the end because you don't need it. It's technically not totally simplest form. I don't think it will. So keep it off. Keep it off. Okay, do this one in your notes. Everyone's voices should be off because you should be working to solve this. So first we move the decimal in the divisor, move the decimal in the dividend, and then put that there. And then you did what? 12 goes into 96? 8 times. And then it goes in evenly. And then we're done. So your answer is whole number 8. Whole number 8. Okay? Okay, the last thing we need to talk about is that you can add placeholder zeros when needed. So we've seen this in some of our work. If you need to bring something else down and like you haven't gotten to a 0 at the end and you have to keep dividing, you can add a 0 to bring it down. So placeholder zeros can be helpful and you can use them when you're dividing. For example, 2.45 divided by 0.007. So if we set this up, 2.45 is my dividend underneath, right? And then my divisor is 0.007. Now the first thing we notice is what do we need to do here before we can divide? Roger.
Put the decimal in the divisor.
Very good. All the way to the end. We've got to move that decimal in the divisor all the way to the end of the 7. So that's 1, 2, 3 places to the right. Now, this is what we're talking about with placeholder zeros. We moved it 3 places to the right in the divisor. We also need to move it 1, 2, 3 places to the right in the dividend. Notice when we moved it 3 places to the right, there wasn't a digit there. So what do I need to put in that space where there wasn't a digit? Mia, a 0. Okay? And then bring up your decimal point. I ran out of long division bar. Bring up your decimal point to your quotient right above where it ended up in the dividend. And then we divide. So basically all of these zeros up in the front don't mean anything because 0.0007 is the same as 7. 7 goes into 24 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. Subtract. Bring down. 7 goes into 35. 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. Am I done?
No.
Not yet. I still have one more thing to bring down. 7 goes into 0 how many times? 0. So my answer is what? 350. And I don't need to put the decimal at the end. Okay, you don't need to write this. You don't need to write this. Here's our word problem. Pay attention because we do see word problems on our tests and quizzes and we always practice them in class so that we're ready for them on tests and quizzes. Here's what it says. You can get a magazine subscription either for option 1, $29.88 for 12 months, or you could do option 2 and pay $15.24 for 6 months. The question asks, which is a better deal? Which is a better deal? You need to figure out which one you're paying less per month. How are we going to figure this out? Miles, what would you do? I don't want to know number 1 or number 2. I want to know how we're going to figure that out. How are we going to figure that out? Mia, divide. The first one, what am I going to divide?
You're going to divide 12 divided by 2, or the opposite. 29
Very good. 29.88 divided by 12. I don't have to move any decimals because I have a whole number in my divisor. So I just pop the decimal right above the dividend. So then we divide 2, 24, subtract, bring down. Subtract, bring down. I feel like this is going to be even.
It is.
What is it? 9?
249.
9.
It's 9.
9. 108. Subtract, we're at 0, we're done. So how much does subscription 1 cost per month? Dylan? Very good. $2.49 per month. Now, let's see how much subscription 2 would cost per month. What do we do? How do I set this up to figure it out? Hudson?
You do 15.24 divided by 6.
Perfect. 15.24 divided by 6, that'll tell us what we're paying per month for subscription 2. So move my decimal point right up above because I didn't have to move anything out of my divisor. 6 goes into 15 twice. Subtract. Bring down. 6 times 5 is 30. Subtract. Bring down. And 6 times 4 is 24. Subtract. We're done. How much are you paying per month in subscription 2? $2.54. Which subscription is the better deal? The first one. The first one because you are paying less money per month. Okay, so it is a better deal because you're paying less per month. Even though it looks like it costs more, per month you're paying less. So you're getting a better deal on that. This is a totally real world situation. When you buy things in bulk, like if you go to like Costco or Sam's Club, you tend to pay less per item even though you're paying more initially.
Yeah, but
You're
I
getting
want to get one free.
more for your money. Yeah.